In the last section, we talked about imaginary numbers and how they were kind of a completely different set of numbers separate from the real numbers. Today, I want to talk about complex numbers, which is going to take real numbers and imaginary numbers and put them together. We'll see here that a complex number is any number that can be written in the form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers and I equals the square root of -1, which we identified last section as our imaginary unit. For a complex number, a is the real part of the number and bi is the imaginary part. And so complex numbers look like this: 3 plus 4i, 4 minus 2i, 1 minus I square root of 5. But they could also look like this: 17, -5, pi, and so forth. Because technically, I could write 17 as 17 plus 0i. I could write -5 as -5 plus 0i. I could write pi as pi plus 0i. And so we see real numbers are actually part of the set of complex numbers. The same is true with imaginary numbers. We know that 2i is an imaginary number and -7i is an imaginary number. Well, I could rewrite these as 0 plus 2i. Or I could rewrite -7i as 0 minus 7i. And that would fit the form a plus bi. And so there's a couple of things we can do with this. Some operations, for example, are adding and subtracting two complex numbers. Let's say I've got -7 plus 2i, and I want to add to 5 minus 11i. So what I would do here is stack them on top of each other, making sure that the real parts kind of fit in one column and the imaginary parts fit in one column. Here's how that would look: -7 plus 2i, like so, and underneath I'd put 5 minus 11i. Again, making sure that the real number parts line up, the imaginary parts line up. Here I'm going to add them together. So let's do a big plus sign in red. And then I just add the real parts together. So -7 plus 5 is going to make -2. And I'll also add the imaginary parts together. 2i plus -11i is going to make -9i. So -7 plus 2i plus 5 minus 11i will make another complex number here, -2 minus 9i. All right, what about this one? Subtract now 18 plus 27i minus 2 plus 3i. I'm still going to line this up just like I did up here. Let's put 18 plus 27i, like so. And then 2 plus 3i right underneath it. Here I'll be subtracting though, so off to the side, big minus sign. And I have to remember to go back to my operation. What that means is 18 minus 2 is going to be 16, but don't immediately just go straight down and go 27i plus 3i. I need to go 27i over to my operation minus 3i. That's going to make 24i. So when I subtract one complex number from another, I get another complex number. In this case, 16 plus 24i. What about multiplying complex numbers? Well, here I'm going to multiply a couple complex numbers. And we use either the FOIL method, or I tend to use a box method. I really like those. But I've got to keep in mind that if I equals the square root of -1, then I squared is going to be the square root of -1 squared, which is the same as saying I squared is -1. So keep that in mind as we're simplifying our results here. Okay, so multiply 4 plus 9i times 6 minus 2i. So I'm going to set up a box. And in this box, I've got 4 cells. Along the top, let's put 4 plus 9i. And down the side, 6 minus 2i. Then for each of these, I'm going to multiply to everything that's on the outside. So for this cell, 6 times 4, that's going to make 24. 6 times 9i, so 6 times 9 is going to make 54. So this is 54i. Okay, here I've got negative 2i times 4. Negative 2 times 4 is going to make negative 8. So this will be negative 8i. And then lastly, negative 2i times 9i. Negative 2 times 9 is going to be negative 18. And then I times I is going to make I squared. All right, let's put everything together. 24 plus 54i minus 8i minus 18 times I squared. Well, remember that I squared is negative 1. So this is really saying 24 plus 54i minus 8i minus 18 times negative 1. Which then is saying 24 plus 54i minus 8i. Negative 18 times negative 1 is going to be positive 18, so I can just change this to plus 18. Finally, combine like terms. 24 plus 18, that's going to make 42. And then 54i minus 8i, that'll be 46, so plus 46i. So multiplying these two complex numbers got us an I squared here, but I don't want to leave my answer with an I squared. I want to remember that I squared is negative 1, and then fully, go through the process of simplifying this and combining like terms to make sure that you've done all that you can here. Okay, one more. Let's say I've got negative 3 plus 12i, and I'm going to multiply it to 7 plus 4i. So let's set up another box. And along the top, I'll put negative 3 plus 12i. And down the side, let's do 7 plus 4i. Okay, 7 times negative 3, that's going to make negative 21. 7 times 12i, 7 times 12 is 84, so this is going to make 84i. Four I times negative 3, 4 times negative 3 is going to make negative 12, so this is negative 12i. And lastly, 4i times 12i. 4 times 12 will make 48. And I times I is I squared. Let's put all this together. Negative 21 plus 84i minus 12i plus 48i squared. Except remember, I squared is negative 1. So this is negative 21 plus 84i minus 12i plus 48 times negative 1, which is negative 21 plus 84i minus 12i And then just make this 48 times negative 1. Well, that's negative 48. And finally, once we're at this point, combine like terms. I've got negative 21 and negative 48. So I can combine that to make negative 69. And then 84i minus 12i, that'll be 72. So plus 72i. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what a complex number is and some different operations that we can use with complex numbers.